let's get to love-hate, and let's start off with the running backs. We see the graphic that we've decided to stick with all season long, for better or worse. We'll see. I'm going to make it plus 1,200 that one comes back next season, but that's okay. Before we get into the love list, though, just some headlines around some key running backs for tonight's game. Derrick Henry, with his hip, he is doubtful to play against the Cowboys. We've talked about this at length. Hassan Haskins is the guy that you would want in Henry's absence, but I don't think you can really trust Hassan Haskins to be an RB2. I think he's more of a touchdown-dependent flex. And then Tom Pelissero, which I think is more relevant, he's reporting that Tony Pollard is doubtful to play, very much in doubt, with a thigh injury tonight. So it looks like it's going to be the Ezekiel Elliott show, Matthew.
Yeah, so let's talk about Tennessee here for a second. We talked about this, as you mentioned, all week long. There's no reason to play Derrick Henry in this game. It does not matter to the Titans. All that matters is week 18 against the Jaguars. And so Hassan Haskins, who has a decent matchup, right? I mean, like, he gets the Cowboys, who have allowed at least 70 yards to a running back in 6 of their past 7 games. He should get the majority of work. They don't want Malik Willis to throw it, really. So there should be a decent amount of workload. Having said that, it's still a pretty good Dallas Cowboys defense. They still have something to play for. And I think if I'm the Cowboys, I might say, we're going to take our chances with Malik Willis beating us through the air. We're going to stack the box. So Haskins comes in at running back 27. He has some pass catching equity. So, he's a low end flex, and you hope he falls into the end zone. I would not play him over. He'd be a desperation play for me tonight, just again, because we figure the low-scoring nature of this game, and I'm nervous about the Titans' offense, and we just haven't seen it in terms of Haskins, a full workload, right? And so, I mean, like, might see some Julius Chestnut. I mean, anyway, it's a bit of a mess in Tennessee. Dallas is more interesting as well because, listen, one of my birthday wishes. So I'm in a handful of finals this week, but one of them, probably my most important league, that I care about, the final that I care about the most, is I'm in a deep dynasty league. It's a 12-team dynasty league filled with a bunch of other industry experts. It's the 4th year of this dynasty league. I've been in the final 3 times. This is my 3rd trip to the finals in 4 years. I lost in the semis last year. And despite the fact that I have literally led in total points from start to finish over 4 years, I have just one title. And so, which I won 2 years ago. So I lost the semifinals last year. I'm back in the finals again. I'm against Rich Rebar, my friend at Lord Reeves, does a great job. He's got the better team than me, if I'm being honest. I lost Cooper Kupp in this league. I lost Zach Ertz in this league. It's a tight end premium league. So I'm a bit beat up. He's got the better team, but it's fantasy football. One game, anything can happen. I have Ezekiel Elliott. So I need Zeke. My birthday wish is for Zeke to have a big game tonight. We'll see if Tony Pollard doesn't play. I don't think even if Tony Pollard is active, you can start him. Some people have said, they pointed to a tweet that Tony Pollard put out saying, hey, he's running for St. Jude, and every yard he scores is another donation to St. Jude, and he's excited to do this tonight. And everyone's like, it looks like he's playing. And I'm like, no, looks like his social media manager or whoever runs his account wasn't paying attention to the practice reports, or they're just trying to generate more donations to St. Jude in Tony Pollard's name, which is it's a terrific charity. It's a great cause, and kudos to Tony for promoting that cause and earning money for the charity. But I would not put that tweet as a reason why Tony Pollard's going to play a lot tonight. I put a lot more stock in Tom Pelissero, who does a really good job over there at NFL Network. My expectation here is Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's a top 20 play. Again, the workload's been there, 17 touches in 5 straight games. And I think you'll see some Malik Davis as well, right? You see it there on your screen in terms of what the backfield has been between Pollard and Zeke. I think you'll see an increased workload for Ezekiel Elliott today. And we'll break down this game further on later when we get into it, but it's just worth noting. And so I do think you'll see some Malik Willis. I'm sorry, not Malik Willis. You will see Malik Willis for quarterback of the Titans, but you'll see some Malik Davis as a running back, the number 2 running back for the Cowboys. If you're playing DFS tonight, 1-game slate, I think he becomes sort of an interesting name. Worth noting that the Titans are expected to have as many as 6 defensive starters out for this game. Again, we'll break it down later in the show, Jay, but it's not just Derrick Henry. The Titans are full on. We're waiting for week 18 in Jacksonville.
Yeah, and the line has shot up from -3 to -13 Cowboys, which we'll talk about as well towards the end of the show. But let's get to the love list, headlined by James Conner, who was basically the only good thing on Sunday Night Football from a fantasy perspective against the Bucs, and now he has a favorable matchup against the Atlanta Falcons.
I think favorable matchup is the most tame way to describe it. I mean, he's playing the Falcons, right? Since week 10, Atlanta's allowing 156 scrimmage yards to running backs per game. Like, they give up 156 on the ground, and if they're giving up 156 on the ground to running backs, you know the majority of that is going to go to James Conner, who's had 19 touches in 5 of the past 6 games. Just a massive workload here. Colt McCoy back under center for Arizona, which tells me that this offense will be at least a little bit more stable than it was under Trace McSorley. Worth noting that the Falcons have also allowed at least 95 total yards to a running back in 5 of the past 6. So I think James Conner, monster game coming this weekend. He's a top 3 play for me.
Yep. All right, let's start talking about the best running back in the NFL, Cam Akers, who has had a ridiculous season. Surprised he wasn't on your top 5 for next year, Matthew, kind of edging out Austin Eckler and Tyreek Hill, but that's fair enough. Keep on doubting the man.
If I will say this, if the NFL schedule makers make it so that the Rams play the Broncos every week next year, Cam Akers will be my number 1 overall player. I mean, you know, no one phones it in like the Denver Broncos. Let's ride to Aruba. I mean, that's what the Broncos are doing right here. They're just like, they've already made their vacation plans. They could not, like, I don't even know what's going on here. But the fact is, as you see Cam Akers running over the Broncos on your screen, Cam Akers is getting a lot of work, right? 73% of the snaps, at least 15 touches in 3 of the last 4 games. He's had 6 touchdowns over his past 4 games. Since week 13, he's the 5th best running back in fantasy, as you see it there on your screen. And it's a good matchup against the Chargers, who allow the 2nd most rushing yards per game to running backs so far this season. They're giving up 5.5 yards per carry to running backs. That's most in the NFL. Cam Akers, it's such a weird year, right? I mean, like, he was going to be the starter, and then he was in the doghouse, then he was in a timeshare, then he was losing snaps to Darrell Henderson, then they were going to release him, then they were going to try to trade him, then they were like, all right, you can come back, then they get rid of Darrell Henderson, and now they all loved Cam Akers. Like, it's bizarre. And so Cam Akers, who's probably like on the 3rd or 4th team in your fantasy league, right? Whoever drafted Cam Akers realized he drafted a bust. He was on my preseason hate list. And I don't know if I get credit for this as a good call or not, because I feel like for the first half of the season, Jay, it was an unbelievable call. He went way too high. He was completely unproductive. But yet down the stretch, he's been nothing short of fantastic. He's been a top 5 running back in the last handful of weeks. So I don't know if it's a good call or a bad call, but my guess is that Cam Akers in pretty much every league was like drafted too high, dropped, picked up by somebody else, dropped, and now is like on his 3rd team in everyone's league and leading some guy, some 6th seed to the title.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to end up having a more valuable fantasy season than Jonathan Taylor based on the timing of when he's doing this, which is absurd. Now, the Rams, they're 6.5-point dogs to the Chargers, but the Chargers, they've clinched a playoff spot. It's a short week. They have a really bad run defense, as you mentioned. So it all just lines up for Cam Akers again to go off and be deciding leagues in a kind of similar vein to the way Kenyon Drake did a couple of years ago. I feel like they're kind of cut from the same cloth. Let's go to your Washington Commanders. Huge game. I don't want to be near you on Sunday, Matthew, because I feel like you're going to be pretty stressed with the Commanders taking on the Cleveland Browns. Game is in Washington, and Brian Robinson is on the love list with a very favorable matchup against the Browns' rush defense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things here. First off, you don't want to throw against the Browns, right? I mean, they have a top 5 pass defense over the last month. What you can do is run against them, right? They're bottom 3 in the NFL in terms of most rushing touchdowns allowed to running backs and in terms of yards per carry allowed to opposing running backs. In fact, running backs who've gotten at least 15 touches against Cleveland this year, averaging 19.1 fantasy points per game. And I know Robinson did not have a great game last week against the San Francisco 49ers, but this is a different scenario. Double-digit fantasy points, as you see on their screen there, for Brian Robinson in 3 of the last 4 games. And so Antonio Gibson, who did not practice early this week because he's dealing with a sprain and feels like he's less than 100%, my expectation is it's a big workload once again for Brian Robinson in this game against Cleveland, and a good matchup here. I know Carson Wentz is going to get the start here, but I still think they're going to want to go run heavy. So I like Brian Robinson as a top 20 play. Doesn't have a ton of passing game usage, but, might catch 1 or 2 balls, especially with Gibson not at 100%. They'll use some Jonathan Williams as well, but big hat Brian Robinson should be the guy on Sunday against the Browns.
Yeah, I think the thing with Brian Robinson too, and it's a little simplistic and not super sophisticated to say, but he's just really freaking good. Like the way that he runs, he has an exceptional PFF grade. He runs angry. He drags guys with him. And I think that, he has the potential in this game. I would not be shocked if he has 125 yards and a touchdown against this rush defense. Wouldn't predict that, but that is in play given the way that he has been playing. All right, let's go to another rookie running back.
This is an important game for Washington. Why? I mean, this is the game Washington will win. I know you like the Browns +2, but I think Washington wins this game, and then they break my heart against Dallas in week 18. But
I think they can break your heart a couple of times, but we'll see how they go.
Have.
Let's go to others receiving votes. Headlined by another rookie running back, and that's Tyler Algier, who I mentioned this yesterday or the day before, but Tyler Algier has more rushing yards than Kenneth Walker this season, Matthew.
You know what? It's volume has gotten him there. But by the way, he's overtaken this backfield from Cordero Patterson back-to-back games with 18 touches and at least 115 total yards. You like the matchup against Arizona, who've given up 100 rushing yards to running backs in 3 straight games. You see A.J. Dillon there on your list. Aaron Jones is clearly not 100%. Dillon's had at least 13 touches in each of his last 3 games. Minnesota giving up 120 rushing yards in 4 straight. Isaiah Pacheco, again, it's Denver, let's ride to the Caribbean. I just, honestly, 15 touches in every game since week 10. Broncos have allowed at least 1 rushing touchdown in 4 of their last 5 games. Of course, they gave up the 3 last week to Cam Akers. And then how about Bam Knight? I think that Mike White returning to the Jets elevates this offense. Since Michael Carter returned, Bam Knight's still getting 73% of the team's running back touches. And it's a good matchup against Seattle as the Seahawks have allowed 160 rushing yards in 5 of their past 6 games. They've given up 9 rushing touchdowns in the last 6 as well. And so Bam Knight doesn't appear to be, super injured. I think the offense gets elevated with Mike White. Give me some Bam Knight as a flex play this week.
Interesting that you went back to the well with the Let's Ride to Aruba after Let's Ride to the Caribbean.
No. It was like the first one was Let's Ride to Aruba. The second one was Let's Ride to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
That's how I'm switching it up. That's why it's not the same joke, because it's a different place they're going.
Just picturing you an hour ago in that closet, kind of scripting out Broncos gags on your birthday. It's exceptional stuff.
Honestly, I didn't script them out. But I did write love-hate, and I did take multiple shots at the Broncos. In love-hate this week.
They've earned them. You mentioned
Aaron. Have.
Yeah, you mentioned Aaron Jones before. He headlines the hate list. Can't really figure out what's going on with Aaron Jones. Has huge workload against the Rams and then nothing at all against the Dolphins.
Yeah, he's clearly less than 100%. He left with that shin injury. He's been on the injury report every week since week 10, right? And so, we always talk about free Aaron Jones. Well, they refuse to. He's played less than 40% of the snaps in 2 of the last 3 games. He's held to under 40 rushing yards in 4 of the last 5. Again, doesn't feel like he's 100% healthy. At best, he's in a timeshare with A.J. Dillon. At worst, which is what I think we have here, he's going to be on the wrong side of a timeshare. I mean, we're seeing some Patrick Taylor in the backfield as well for the Packers just because, again, Jones just isn't 100%. And so because of the production they're getting from Dillon, it's hard to trust Aaron Jones this week against the Vikings.
Yep. Also hard to trust Devin Singletary, despite the good game that he had against Chicago. He's just not getting, he is kind of getting consistent usage. It's just not as high as you'd like.
Well, by the way, so we've seen the emergence of James Cook. You've got Josh Allen, who's always a threat to take it at the goal line as well. And Singletary, even though he's gotten some of the work, he hasn't done much with it, right? I mean, he had the big game against Chicago last week. They all did. But I'm nervous about this matchup against Cincinnati. Get this about the Bengals, right? One running back in the last 5 games has had more than 15 fantasy points against the Bengals, right? They have not allowed more than 65 rushing yards to any one running back in 5 straight games. Since week 10, they were allowing the fourth fewest rushing yards to opposing running backs as well. Again, he's part of this 3-headed committee. You see a little bit of Nyheim Hines, but I'm really calling Josh Allen part of this 3-headed committee in terms of who might get rushing attempts, who might get goal line attempts. And just, I don't know, it makes me nervous. Singletary's outside my top 30 for the week, as you see there on your screen. Again, Josh Allen, James Cook, Devin Singletary all had rushing touchdowns, so they all paid off for you against the Bears. The Bears ain't the Bengals. I think this is a game that both teams are going to have to throw to move the ball.
Yeah, and the total in this game is 49.5 on BetMGM, one of the highest of the week. So just feels like a shootout. Feels like a Buffalo-Kansas City playoff game type of shootout. So I do think that for Singletary to really exceed expectations, he's going to need that offense to give him a touchdown or two. Let's talk about J.K. Dobbins, who's on the hate list. Now, Dobbins did have a big game against the Steelers a couple of weeks ago, but he's on the hate list this week.
Yeah, the problem, but that was a lot of that was by one big run that he had. That was part of it against the Steelers, and he's always got that ability. He's got that big playability. So sure, it could happen. But the fact of the matter is that the Steelers defense seems to have really kind of tightened up recently. They've given up under 60 rushing yards in back-to-back weeks. They shut down Josh Jacobs last week, a red-hot Josh Jacobs. And Dobbins, look, he's not involved in the passing game as well, and he is part of a committee, right? I mean, he's played under 45% of the snaps in every game since he's returned. And so you think about how low-scoring we expect this game to be, all the cliches about it's an AFC North, Boomer would be like a Norris division. Like, it's going to be like this is going to be like a 13-10 kind of grinded out, ugly game between the Steelers and the Ravens. Steelers have only allowed 2 rushing touchdowns in their past 7 games. And so that's what you need from Dobbins, because you're not expecting massive workload. He's going to get about 12 carries, and he's not going to be involved in the passing game. So you're hoping he either has a really big long run or he falls into the end zone, all of which are possible, but not likely against the Steelers, which is why he's merely my running back 35 in Week 17.
Yep. Ugly 13-10 game, not much offense, but make sure to watch on NBC and Peacock Sunday Night Football, Steelers, Ravens.
You're going to have to watch anyway. You got your fantasy matchup to determine, somebody in your league is, starting Deontay Johnson against you or whatever. You're going to have to watch.
100%.
And there's betting. Don't forget there's betting. That's why betting is brilliant. Just bet all the unders.
Exactly. They'll give you something when Kenny Pickett and Tyler Huntley are going head-to-head. The total in that game is now to 35 flat. So I think that J.K. Dobbins is probably going to need a touchdown, similar to Devin Singletary, to return value.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.